Consulting Beginner's Guide. Is consulting actually a good career? That's what I'm going to go over today. We'll cover important aspects of consulting like salary, job satisfaction, and what you actually do on a day-to-day basis. And if you appreciate me making these types of videos, let me know by hitting the like button, and let's get into it. So what exactly is consulting? You might have heard of companies like McKinsey, Bain, Boston Consulting Group, Accenture, and Deloitte. But what do these firms and their consultants actually do? Well, the best way to think about what consultants do is to think about your doctor. But instead of treating patients like you and me, consultants treat businesses. When you go in for a doctor's visit, there's a few things that every doctor will do. First, the doctor will assess your symptoms. Then they'll provide a diagnosis. Third, they're going to give you a prescription. Fourth, they're going to provide some bedside manners, that is, what you're going to do in between visits. And fifth, they're going to provide some follow-up care just to make sure you're getting better. Consultants do the same thing for businesses. Let's imagine, for example, that Coca-Cola was having issues with one of their products. They're wondering why this product isn't selling better. So they might hire some consultants to come in. The consultants will do exactly what a doctor does. First, they're going to figure out the symptoms. For example, they're going to look at the product line and think about, why isn't this drink selling well? Is it the price, the packaging, the taste, the lack of marketing? What's happening? Once they know what the symptoms are, they're going to look closer and provide a diagnosis. They might think, you know what? The problem here seems to be marketing. We're not marketing enough. And then they'll provide a prescription. Their prescription will be like, we need to market more at sporting events. To provide bedside manners, that is, what to do in between the consultant checking up on the company again, they'll suggest, for example, doing marketing campaigns that target people between ages 18 and 34. This way, they provide exactly what the client, Coca-Cola in this case, needs to do. Finally, they're going to follow up to make sure that the marketing campaign went well, and Coca-Cola was able to get the outcome it wanted when it first hired the consulting team. This is an example of what a consulting project is like. If this type of problem solving really resonates with you and you thought, oh wow, I can really see myself doing that, then being a consultant might actually be a great career path for you. In fact, there are a lot of reasons why people pursue a career in consulting. Let's talk about some of the major reasons. First off is compensation. In fact, most consulting firms and consultants are paid within the top 5% of all global earners. So imagine you're 21 years old, fresh out of college, and already you're making more than $100,000 a year on your first day. That's a pretty good and sizable compensation. And of course, it only increases the more you progress in your career. For example, if you're not in school, and even if you only have a year of experience, you can actually make a career change to consulting. And most likely, you're going to get a salary bump. And that's just the compensation. Besides earning in the top 5% of earners by just your base salary alone, you're also going to get other bonuses as well. For example, you get a sign-on bonus when you get your offer and sign it, and you also get performance bonuses that could also double or even triple your salary depending on the role and the company that you take. That's a lot of money. But besides the compensation, there's also other benefits. For example, consultants get to travel a lot and they get reimbursed by their clients as well as their firms. So for example, I have a friend who loves consulting because of the travels. By the time he actually quit his consulting job, he had accumulated so many hotel points and so many airline miles that for the rest of his life, he never has to pay for another plane ticket or a hotel upgrade because he spent so many nights traveling. Airlines and hotels gave him so many points for all his vacations moving forward. In fact, as I'm recording this video, his wedding and honeymoon are all paid for with just the points that he earned in consulting a few years ago. And that's just the benefit of traveling. There are other benefits as well. Beyond travel, you also get the world's top healthcare as well as retirement funds because the firms that you work with, they want to make sure that you're taken care of both financially and from a health point of view. So they're going to provide you the best healthcare and retirement funds possible. A third benefit is that a lot of firms also have an education fund. So let's imagine, for example, that you just graduate university and you want to pursue a master's or an MBA. Well, the firm's actually going to pay for that master's or MBA, assuming, of course, that you go back and work with them for a few years. And beyond just the monetary benefits, there are also a lot of benefits to working in consulting. For example, you get some of the best mentorships that you can possibly have. The people that you work with at these firms have been in the business world for more years than you've been alive, and they're literally next door to you working. I remember back when I was at Bain, it was so easy for me to knock on a door, for example, if I was thinking about entrepreneurship, and there was someone who had sold their business for over $500 million and decided to become a partner at the firm. Well, I was able to schedule time on his calendar and just talk to him about entrepreneurship. Also, the friends I made during my time in consulting are still some of my best friends to this day. And the type of people that you'll meet in consulting are very similar to you. They're ambitious, they love to learn, and they love meeting other people. So therefore, they likely share a lot of values with you. In addition, you also get to learn how to solve big problems and make an impact in the world. When clients bring in consultants, they're bringing them in to solve big problems. You're not going to be going there and deciding what colors the chairs should be for the waiting room. Instead, you're going to be helping decide, for example, how the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation will spend their next $1 billion if their goal is to eradicate malaria. because you're working on these high impact projects for big clients. You're always going to be learning different skill sets. Whether it's how to analyze a problem better, how to structure your thoughts, how to build confidence, or how to lead a team, you're always constantly learning as a consultant. So essentially, you're getting paid to learn. Once you decide to leave consulting, the whole world is open to you. You have so many exit opportunities available to you. For example, you might decide to stay in the business world, and let's say that your goal is to be the CEO of a big business. You might end up being the CEO of Google, Microsoft, Starbucks, or another major corporation, all positions that management consultants have held. Or you might decide that you want to take your career in a different direction, and let's say that you want to pursue music. Well, you might end up like John Legend and become a 7-time Grammy winner. And yes, John Legend is actually a consultant. So you can kind of see all the different types of people start their careers in management consulting. This brings up another benefit of working in consulting, which is career growth. Even if you only stay in consulting for a few years or decide to stay until you retire, you're always going to be progressing. In these firms, early in your career, you can expect promotions anywhere between 6 months to 2 years. And every time you get promoted, you're going to have another 30 to 40% pay raise. So there are very few career paths that allow you to do that. And that's a huge benefit of why people stay in consulting. And if you're curious about what career progression is like in consulting, it's pretty fast. Here's what a typical path looks like. For example, if you're straight out of college, you'll start off as an analyst. The title will actually change from firm to firm. For example, some firms call them analysts, associates, others call them consultants, but I'll call it analyst to make sure that we have the same terminology here. And you'll stay at the analyst level for about 2 to 3 years before being promoted to associate. You can also enter as an associate with an advanced degree like an MBA or a PhD, or you might finish your time at the firm as an analyst, go get your MBA, and then come back as an associate. As I mentioned before, many firms will actually sponsor you to go get an MBA and then come back with a title promotion and raise. The firm will pay for all of this. At this point, you'll stay at the associate role for about 2 to 3 years before you become a project manager, which then after 2 or 3 years, you become an associate partner. That typically lasts about 2 to 4 years, and then the owners of the firm will vote if they should make you a partner. And then you'll stay in this partner role for as long as you want or until you retire. So as you can see here, progression is really quick, and at all levels, you're learning and up-leveling yourself. So at this point, you might be thinking, whoa, there are so many benefits to working in consulting. What's the catch? Well, I presented with you all the benefits, but there is one downside, which is that working in consulting can take a toll on your work-life balance. If you're someone who likes to have a standard job, let's say you go to a job at 9 o'clock and clock out at 5 o'clock, and you expect to have 40-hour work weeks, and you expect to be home every single night to your bed, then this career path is not the right career path for you. As a consultant, you're paid well, and you're given many benefits and perks, as we mentioned, but it comes with a trade-off of high expectations from the client and the firm that employs you. While you aren't going to be working 100-hour work weeks or traveling 365 days out of a year or anything crazy like that, there are sacrifices that consultants make in order to have this career. For example, on average, consultants work about 50 to 60 hours per week. And many factors will affect how many hours you work. For example, it could be the project timeline. If you have a 2-week project versus having a 2-year project, then the 2-week project is going to be a lot more intense. The type of project also matters. If it's a project that you and your team have done before over and over again, you probably have templates and shortcuts. But if it's the first time that the firm is doing a certain type of project, you're going to be expected to do a lot more work because you and the firm are still trying to figure out the process. Travel, as I mentioned earlier, is another factor. For example, if you have to fly 5 to 6 hours to get to the client, you have to factor things like getting to the airport, to the client site, getting to the hotel, and then at the end of the week, you have to do all of that in reverse. So travel time will also inflate these hours. Finally, the team that you're on also plays a role. There's going to be a lot more work than if you had a bigger team. So there will be some projects that you'll be working less than 50 hours per week, and others where you'll be working more than. So even though the average time a consultant spends traditionally is 50 to 60 hours, there will be some weeks and some projects where you're working less than 50 hours per week, and others where you're working more than 60. For one of my first projects at Bain, I was on a small team of 4 consultants on a 3-month project, but it was a pro bono project for the local school system. We were in charge of figuring out how can a low-income school system retain its best teachers. And on average, I had about 45 to 50-hour work weeks. A lot of this time was spent interviewing teachers to get to know them on a personal level. So you can imagine that this type of work is a lot more relaxed than the next project I had, which was a 2-week diligence project for 2 companies thinking about merging. During those 3 weeks, I ended up working on the weekends, and I averaged about 80 to 90 hours per week. So you can kind of see there's extreme variations in workload in consulting. That's just 2 extreme examples of how intense the hours can be and the trade-offs that you have to make in your personal life. But there are also lifestyle considerations as well. For example, consultants travel, and some people really love traveling. Like the friend I mentioned earlier in this video, where he has so many travel points that he never has to pay for a hotel or plane ticket again. He loves traveling. But for me, I didn't quite love traveling. Personally, I like going home to my own bed. When I did travel for projects, it was actually seen as a negative for me on my lifestyle versus for others who loved it. Every person varies on that. Travel isn't glamorous for everyone who enters the consulting realm. Every person will vary depending on how much they like or dislike travel, but I'm going to be concerned that travel isn't always glamorous. For example, for certain projects, even if I were to go to Paris, it wasn't like I got to see the Eiffel Tower or anything. I was just working at the client site. So every person will have their own views on whether travel is a plus or a minus, but I want to be transparent that travel isn't always glamorous. So for example, sometimes you would just travel to the middle of nowhere where there's only one hotel and one restaurant in the whole city. Or you might travel to a glamorous city. Like for example, I traveled down to LA for one of my projects, but it wasn't like I was spending time in Hollywood Boulevard or anything like that. It was just at the client site and then back to the hotel. So how do you know if consulting is actually the right career path for you? If you're considering a career in consulting, I would ask yourself a few questions. The first question is, what are your reasons for wanting to work in consulting? And it could be for numerous reasons. For example, if you already know what you want to do after consulting and working in consulting is like a stepping stone towards that, it could be a good reason. Let's say, for example, you want to work in private equity or venture capital, and you know that having consulting experience will help you land these jobs. That's a valid reason for being a consultant. On the other extreme, if you don't know what you want to do, but you want to use consulting as time to explore different projects, functions, organizations, clients, industries, and just figuring out exactly what you want to do with your life, that's another great reason. Both extremes are different, but the key here is that you have to have a reason for why you want to work in consulting, because you're going to have to give up a lot on your work style and work-life balance. So you want to make sure that the trade-offs are worth it to you. Even if you only want to work in consulting for 1 to 2 years, I want to make sure that you feel like those 12 to 24 months are worth it. So that's what you have to think about if you're deciding if consulting is for you. What do you want to get out of your time in consulting? Now you know more than 99% of the world what consultants actually do and if it's the right career path for you. Actually, in fact, if you're interested in a career in consulting, I want to help you even more. If you comment below the word consulting, that'll tell me that you already decided that you want to be a consultant. What I'll do is send you some resources so that you can have a successful career in consulting. Or if you're undecided, leave a comment below that says undecided, and I'll send you a resource to help you figure out if consulting is the right career path for you. Also, if you're 100% serious about becoming a management consultant, I want to help you even more. Here at my consulting offer, my team and I are made up of former recruiters, interviewers, and consultants, all of whom have helped people get jobs in management consulting. In fact, we have an 89.6% success rate when it comes to helping people start their careers in management consulting. And I want you to be our next success story. My team and I have recently put together a free training that goes over what it's like to work in consulting, how to land interviews, and how to pass those interviews so you get your offer. To access that free training, I'll include a link below in the description as well as the pinned comment. All right, I'll see you in the next video.